All right. The National Guard has served America as both a wartime force and the first military responder in times of domestic crisis. Hundreds of times each year, the nation's governors call upon the National Guard troops to respond to fires, floods, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. That's a quote from Lieutenant General Russell Honore. Very fortunate, again, to have another National Guardsman here with us for episode 3, Sergeant First Class Andrew Vining. So thanks for coming in, Andrew. And again, it's really fun to have to look again at the quotes about the National Guard, and then looking at some of the that we'll talk about later on about your guys' experiences. It's quite humbling. We made some jokes last week or a couple weeks ago about the National Guard, and the more that I talk to you guys, the more that I realize I can't really talk shit about you guys like I thought. So, Sergeant First Class Andrew Vining just got promoted. What, a couple months ago or a month ago?
Yeah, it was ended up being in December, but yeah.
Was that long ago?
No, it got backdated.
Okay,
but yeah, it was
cool. Awesome. So Ohio National Guard. Andrew's a local here, one of the locals here. Obviously, he's down in the basement here, but we'll go a little bit about Andrew's past. Like me, he's not originally from Ohio. Actually, like me, grew up in upstate New York. We're in upstate New York.
I was born in Catskill, New York.
Okay, cool.
So
cool.
We lived. We got a family farm up by Hunter Mountain.
Awesome, yeah. Used to go ski up there at Hunter Mountain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I grew up in Orange County, Newburgh area, by West Point was where my dad was. But like also what was fun about researching you is looking about your dad was in the military, but your dad was a pastor, but you moved around a lot. So your junior year, you moved to Santa Cruz, California. Became a California guy.
Oh yeah, it was
to start surfing.
I did. That was my one stipulation, because my dad asked me, because I'd already been to 2 different high schools, and he's like, if we move again to California, are you okay with that? And I said yes, but you have to buy me a surfboard.
Nice.
And that was the agreement, and he did.
And what I like about it is it again shows I moved around a lot, and then I moved to Ohio about 8 years ago. So my oldest son moved here as a freshman in high school. So was really worried about that at the time, but I survived, you survived, he survived. So I guess it's a good thing. So back to your father. So I got to ask, pastor, super religious guy still, or what?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's
you.
Me?
I'm sure the pastor is still super religious. I'm talking about you. Was that
yeah, I mean, we go to church. We go to Rock City and Hilliard every Sunday. Gonna raise my girls in the church. I think it's a good thing. I've definitely gone wayward in my time, and I think going overseas when you're 20 will probably do that to you. I mean, my mom even told me I was different when I came back. So it's but yeah, I'm definitely we take the girls every Sunday, and we enjoy Rock City. It's a very good church.
Awesome. It's yeah, I didn't. It was interesting to see that. I didn't grow up in a super religious family, so it's always interesting. So, what does he think about you joining the military? Was he okay with it? Or
oh yeah,
okay,
yeah, absolutely.
I figured so. Yeah. So the other interesting thing. So you moved to Santa Cruz, you pick up snow surfing. I'm losing my mind here. Then you decide 3 days after you graduate from high school to move to Ohio. So what prompted you to do that?
My dad took a job here in Gahanna, and it was either live in California at 18 years old, which I couldn't afford by myself. So I followed him here and got a job working at Meyer and hated it. So I joined the Army. I don't have good customer service skills.
I can't imagine that.
I don't know why.
No, I think that's it's crazy. It's one of the great things I keep telling people as I'm doing these podcasts is I think it's always fun to how different we are, how similar a lot of our backgrounds are, and the moving around thing is really big in the military. Everybody here is in the military or in a military family knows you moves around, and I think it makes you a lot more able to accept change and things like that. So now I don't want anybody to be offended by this, but you joined the National Guard in 2003, right?
Correct.
And you joined as a cook. And officially, you're the first person since I've got off of active duty that ever told me they were in the Army and they were a cook.
I took it strictly.
So I appreciate your honesty.
I took it strictly for the bonus. It was the only job offering a bonus when I probably because no one wanted to be a cook. And it was in an MP unit, and that's what I wanted to do. And so the recruiter lied to me and said, you can join as a cook, and then when you get your unit, they'll send you to MP school. And I was like, sounds good, because they didn't have any slots. And I was like, all right. Well, he actually didn't lie, because my unit was sending me to MP school, but then I got deployed before that was able to happen. But so I was a cook for a little while, but I didn't ever do the job because.
Well, that took away one of my questions I was going to ask you later on, like what made you decide to be. I mean, I can see it. Like, actually, well, so what was the bonus at the time in 2003? What did they give you?
It was 5,000 bonus and then 3,000 more for quick ship. So to go within, I think it was like 2 months. I forget. Like leave for basic training sooner instead of like 6 months or so down the road.
So I alluded to some of my posts. So after that, you decide that you don't want to be a cook, which sounds like a good decision after you get your $8,000.
Yep.
I'm all for that. You then become an engineer, right?
Yes. It was carpentry masonry. And did that school down at Fort Leonard Wood. But me and my buddy tried to go to Hawaii for the school, but the Army caught on and said no, even though there's offered a class there. But we have to go to Fort Leonard Woods instead.
I feel like you're. I'm just having to enjoy it because these are one of the funny things just to go through of people that just joined MOSs for the crazy. So now we're up to currently where he's at. He's a sergeant first class. He's actually a 13 Romeo, which is a firefighter radar operator, right?
Yes.
So do you like doing that? You didn't do that for a bonus?
No, I did not do that for a bonus. I did that so I could deploy. Okay. That was the only job available when I got back to Ohio, and that's what I found a unit, and they said they were deploying, and I said, do you have any spots? And they said, if you want to be a radar. I was like, that's fine, whatever I got to do. So I kind of fell into this job, and I love it. It's a good job. It's fun. It's cool. I mean, the stuff you get to do with it it's.
So radar finder is, I looked at the videos. So you're actually doing counterfire, right? You're finding stuff. For the people, because I've been told by some people here, there's some people that are in the military and some people aren't. So just kind of talk people through what that is. But basically, they're the ones that find the enemy artillery.
Correct.
Tell the friendly artillery where it's at, and then help them to eliminate them.
Yeah, shoot back.
So it's a good, very.
And our artillery is a lot more accurate than theirs.
True. So you've been with the National Guard now. You're going on how many years now?
I hit 18 this past October.
Okay. How I'm going to go further than that, or what do you think?
No, I'll hit 21 so I can get my top 3 years as a E7, and then that's it. So that's all she wrote. I got 2 young kids, and I'm tired and I'm old. So,
God, if you're old, then I'm ancient. So
that's true.
Yeah, that's true. So you said something I thought was interesting. So you became we're going to go back and get serious now. We've been joking around here for a couple minutes, but you said that you joined the field artillery to deploy. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about a little more. You did deploy to Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2005. Then you went to Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan in 2011.
Correct.
So do you regret taking an MOS where you deployed?
No, I volunteered for both those deployments. So that's honestly, I mean, if I could have been over there my whole 20s, I would have done it. I enjoyed it. It's just it was there's something you get from deployments and the people you meet and the friendships you make. There's something special about them, and I love them. Now with a family, with the wife and 2 kids, it's and an upcoming deployment. It's not as fun as it used to be.
Yeah, maybe we'll have you back when you get back from your deployment. I think that does change. I think when we're all young and don't have responsibilities back at home, it seems like even when you do have responsibilities back at home,
sometimes it's nice to get away.
It is fun, but it ends up rob Peter to pay Paul, I guess is the way to do that.
Yeah.
So talk about your deployments a little bit. So you went to Iraq in 2005, and you were actually working in an Iraqi prison.
Correct.
Okay. This wasn't Abu Dhabi, was it?
Nope.
Okay.
Abu Ghraib.
Abu Ghraib, Abu Dhabi. Yeah, I said it wrong. Yeah, but thank goodness. So we didn't.
Yeah,
it's safe to talk about then. So how was that? I mean, how many? What were you doing there? Were you still? What kind of work were you doing for that deployment?
I still had the Cook MOS, but like I said, I was in an MP unit, so we were in the prisons doing. We had, I mean, at the time it was the world's largest prison. There was, man, I don't even remember anymore. Like 20,000 Iraqis in there. Yeah, it was a lot. And so we had my unit was in charge of the special housing unit. So we had all the, I don't know if you want to call them the hardcore guys, but they're whatever. They were in a single cell, not in the big like 700 to 1,000 man compounds. So we had all the individual compounds, but yeah. So it was, I mean, being around that many of them all day, every day was. You hear a lot, you see a lot. It was crazy, but
So what got those people into that the special solo rooms? Were they?
um, some of it depended on what you did to be caught, and some depended on what you were doing while you were at the prison. Like we had the guys that killed all those Blackwater guys. We had them in the shoe, so like some pretty serious offenders would be in there, but. Yeah, and then if you were, well, for lack of a better term, if you were a shithead in the, just like any prison, you get thrown in the hole.
Like in the general pop, you go to the hole.
Yeah. So, so that was mainly what we had in there.
So when you were there, you said over 20,000 inmates?
Yeah.
Or Iraqi nationals? I
Yeah.
don't know what the correct term is, but we'll just say inmates. So how many, like you had a National Guard MP company or battalion, or what was there? What did you deploy with when you were there? Was it a company?
Battalion.
Okay.
So I was with the 785th MPs out of Michigan, and I got crossed over to them. So I literally, this deployment, I volunteered for it, and they didn't take me. Like, so I volunteered in January of 05. And then they called me in June of 05 on a Tuesday and said, "Hey, this is what's going on." And I was like, "Okay." And like, "When do I leave?" And they're like, "Friday." So I had 3 days notice, and I was gone for 16 months. So one.
You weren't married at the time then?
No, I was only 20.
Okay. What did your parents think about that then?
Well, I had it on speakerphone because I couldn't find the phone, and my mom overheard it, so she screamed. So I felt kind of bad that she found out that way. Same time I found out, but obviously they were proud. But I mean, deployments are harder on the family than they are the actual soldier themselves, and there's no doubt in my mind that's true.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. You look back, I think a lot of people agree with that. I always think one of the most awkward things is when someone like congratulates you for your service, or like if they find out that you went to Afghanistan or Iraq or something like that, they're always like thanking you. And at the time, I just wanted, I do tell people a lot nowadays. I was like, you should thank our family because I wanted to go. It was like you said before, there's something that it's something you've always wanted to do, and you've trained for it, and you're happy doing it. But your wife, who has a kid or 2 kids or 3 kids, or your parents, they're not very happy about it. I know it's funny. I was a lot older when I deployed, about 33 years old, I think, and my mom probably felt the same way your mom did. Wasn't very good. My mom actually wanted to like relive the old World War II days where she was going to call somebody and tell them that I was the only son, and I told her if she did that, I don't think it applied, but I would definitely never talk to her again. But that's cool. So that is interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, and I think that's a lot of the times. For me, I don't know. How do you feel about? Do you feel guilty about the deployments? How your family felt, or other people ever?
I don't know if I didn't feel guilty. I felt bad because I mean, obviously you're there, you know what's going on day to day. They don't. They're sitting at home wondering or trying to keep busy, so they're not thinking about it. So it's just, I don't think I would say I feel guilty. This one I might feel guilty. It's just, even though, I mean, it's not my. I didn't volunteer for this one. The one coming up is, you're going. So, but this one's gonna be harder because I'll feel guilty because my wife's got to take care of 2 kids, and it'll be tough for her, but she's strong. She'll do it.
And now that you talk about your wife, it's a perfect lead in. We're like, this is it's just falling into place. So
I'm way better than Stokes at this.
I know, yeah. I had to like pull some stuff out of them. It was hard, but like Stokes, who was here a couple weeks ago, your wife also served in the military too, which is interesting. So
Correct.
You talk about your wife. So Kirsten, she was in active duty and the Guard.
Yes.
So what did she do?
She's a 92 Yankee, I think, pencil pusher of some sort.
Wow.
She calls herself a pencil pusher, and she was good with it.
A cook is calling someone a pencil pusher.
They got to eat too.
I know. No, that's good though. So I think it's interesting. So it would be fun. That's an interesting concept where I it is interesting. You said that you're going to feel bad, but I think, not for my case, but my wife was not in the military before. Wasn't from a military family really. So her dad was in the Navy, but didn't deal with like the current state of the military. So it would be interesting to see how much she probably understands a lot better than a normal spouse.
Yeah, she was in Iraq before I was. She got there in 2004, and she was stationed at Fort Hood, lovely Fort Hood. I was just there last month. Still lovely.
My first duty assignment holds a place in my heart.
Hers too. But maybe when I come back, you can have us both on at the same time.
Yeah, I thought about that. I mean, obviously she deployed before you, so I probably should have had her on before I had you on.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I got to check the calendar to see if it was better than Jason.
She was the hero first.
Well, that's cool, but that is an interesting thing. I know it's how old are your kids again? How old are Charlotte and Grace? They're
Charlotte she just turned 5 in February, and Grace will be 4 in July.
It's a little bit older than I know the feeling.
Your wife was not from her dad was in the Navy.
He's reading the questions.
That one through. I thought someone was commenting about mine.
I did comment and said that her dad was in the Navy. I did correct myself.
I thought my wife was correcting me or something. I was like, I didn't say you were in the military.
I did correct myself. My wife's dad was in the Navy for a short time, but the Navy that doesn't really count. We went over that in episode 1. So
you get to go on cruises all the time, right?
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting. So we'll definitely have to have her on, have you when you get back and talk about it some more. So we talked a lot about the military stuff, the deployments. So let's get back to like the National Guard mission, what everybody normally thinks. So you've been on orders a couple times since COVID started. Pretty cool deployments in my mind, because one of them is pretty near and dear to my heart, and near and dear to a lot of people who are listening. You deployed to help out with the Mid-Ohio Food Bank.
Yes.
And then also you deployed to help out warehouse sending out
the test kits
and PPE.
So yeah.
So that's so. How do you feel about those deployments? How was the past couple years of pulling yourself out of your civilian job and doing something that really has nothing to do with your MOS, but it definitely has an impact. I mean, I feel like the Mid-Ohio Food Bank thing is definitely every day is having an impact that people don't really realize. So
yeah, I mean, it was especially in the beginning of COVID, and no one knew what was really going on. People were getting laid off, and all the non-important, whatever they called them back then, the non-important jobs.
And your wife said, I think it's your wife because we can't tell the names on the streamline, but I think she said 92 Alpha, by the way. So I think
I was close. I got the 92 part right.
The 92 is close, but I thought that was pretty interesting. And again, when we talk about that, all joking aside, a couple weeks ago I talked about that before. It's amazing when you start talking to National Guardsmen how the deployments have not just been in their own state. You guys and gals have been called on to do some pretty amazing things. When I went to Afghanistan in early 2003, we actually had the New Mexico National Guard was attached to us, and we're the 82nd at the time, so I felt like we were ready to do that, and they just plucked a unit out of a National Guard unit out and threw them into the same fire that we were in, and that's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. And I looked at some stuff earlier. It's amazing how many deployments the National Guard has been on since 2001 started, both domestically and the war on terrorism is the way to do it. So thank you, thank all the Army, the National Guardsmen and national. Is that right to say National Guardsmen politically for male and female now?
Yes.
Thank you guys, guys and gals for your
Guards
service.
People.
Yeah. So we talked about the military stuff a little bit. What about like your current job right now? You actually work for the Defense Logistics Agency, the
Correct.
DLA?
Yes.
How long have you been there?
Just hit 3 years.
Okay.
and I've been gone for about a year and a half of it, and I'm about to leave again. So they probably love me over there.
So what you're telling me is you're really good at your current job?
I don't even know what it is anymore. I'll be sending Jason Stokes messages all day trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do again.
So there's 2000. That's only 3 years. So that takes us back to, my math is not that
19.
good. Like,
March of 19, I started there.
so what were you doing before that? What were you doing your civilian job?
I did 10 years with Mac Tools.
Okay. Like driving the truck or?
Well, I did some of that. I drove a truck for a year for the company. It was a company route, and I did that in Dublin, and then I sold the route to one of my customers, and then I moved inside and worked my way up the corporate ladder, and then decided I should move to the government. I don't know why, because I really did enjoy that job.
Of course, what he's trying to say is, for all the people from the DLA that are listening, he loves his job.
I love it.
He is glad for the opportunity.
Yes. Thank you.
And he can't wait to learn more when he gets back in about a year or so.
I'm gonna gonna learn it all.
The Mac tool thing is funny because I used to, when I got out of the Army, I actually took a job at Penske Truck Leasing. So if you know this, people aren't listening may know this, but mechanics are huge on the toolkits. We were big on Snap-on. So the Snap-on guy was like the mafia, would come in and every week would be shaking down the mechanics for money. It was kind of
I got to do that for a year.
Yeah, it was literally like the mafia. These guys would go run out and be paying them part of their check, and if they didn't,
or
pay
running
them,
away from you, and you're chasing them. I've had to do that too.
We had a guy who quit, or got, I guess I can't remember if he got quit or got fired, but the Snap-on guy, like the day after, was like, I heard he got fired. I need to come get the toolkit, and we're like, you can't come here and get it. He's like, he owes me half the money for that, and I was just like, well, somebody will push it out into the parking lot, and then you can do what you want, but you can't come in and get it. But that's great. So, question I had, I meant to ask this a couple weeks ago, Jason. So, your time with the National Guard, does that count towards your federal retirement time with your current job or no?
Your active duty time does.
Okay.
So, I have around 4 years with deployments and stuff. I'll have another year coming up. So, you just have to buy it back, they say. So. But yeah, it'll count towards your.
So explain the buyback to people that don't understand that.
So I don't even know how they get the monetary value out of it, but they make you pay to add that time on to your. So if I do 20 years with the government and I buy back my 5 years, then even though I have 20 years, it'll actually be 25. So I don't really know how they get the monetary value out of it. They're just like, yeah, you owe us $5,000. Like, oh. Okay, but you can pay it off. You can do $25 a paycheck if you want. It doesn't matter how long it takes. You can pay it off. So
it's just your active duty time, and not like your
no guard time. Just whenever you were deployed or whatever.
Excellent. So, how's your glass looking over there? I feel like
I'm
ready for some more.
Sure.
Somebody was asking if this episode is being sponsored by Jack Daniels. It's not. We just decided to have a group jack off here, so we got a bunch of different jacks, and we're gonna try them here. So, the first one, I think, before we get into the Jack Daniels, we're actually gonna start with. I guess we'll start with the Jack Daniels. So Jack Daniels, everybody knows that. A little bit about what you see here. We don't have like I'd say your granddad's Jack Daniels, or I guess almost from my Jack Daniels, because I'm as ancient as you said earlier. So, yeah. Jack Daniels is Tennessee whiskey. It's actually produced in Lynchburg, Tennessee. It's actually owned by the Brown-Forman Corporation. They bought it in 1956, and it's kind of funny. Both the bottles you brought are both Brown-Forman products. Interesting facts about Jack Daniels. Everybody knows it. Everybody's seen it, but it's actually they were registered with the government for the first time in 1866, so it actually makes it the oldest registered distillery in the United States, which is kind of interesting. You brought, if you want to get a pour of it, you brought one of the a pretty special bottle. There's a Jack Daniel's single barrel project that you see here, or program. You see some different ones here that we have in front of you, but the one you brought in today is actually the Hero Selection, which started last year in 2001 or 2021. I'm sorry, I just lost 20 years there. But this is actually a special bottle. You guys can't see it. If some of the people here aren't in the military, you probably have never seen this before, but this is, you can see it has a dog tag on there. The dog tag has the name of Melvin Keebler on there. But this is the same type of, it's a single barrel product that they did. they did this. They brought up this project in 2021. Like I said, one of the major things was there's a bunch of former military people that actually work at Jack Daniels, and they decided that what a great way to honor heroes is to have heroes pick a barrel. So this barrel was actually picked by Melvin Keebler, who's actually the assistant GM at Jack Daniels Distillery, and he's actually a former naval engineer on submarine. So it's really cool. There's a video, I'll post it later on, where he talks about it, but pretty cool. And what's interesting about this is the second time we've had a product that you actually, for all the people that aren't in the military, you can't get this anywhere except for on the military exchanges. This is also a really cool feature. We have some other ones that are up there, but it's my first time having it. I'll put the cork on there before it gets spilled. But that's pretty cool. Well, cheers. Thanks for doing that. That's our first commercial break. So they did sponsor the podcast, so we have to throw it out there. But no,
where's my freebies?
These are we did have a lot of stuff here. That we have some different Jack Daniel's stuff here, and this is definitely not. We'll talk a little bit about whiskey. I think these are some of the products that a lot of people that are into whiskey forget about, and they pass on it because it's Jack Daniel's. These are nothing like the black label Jack Daniel's that you're used to. Mm-hmm. These are pretty amazing. The prices are great. If you can get your hands on them, I definitely would. So cheers. Thanks for doing that.
Absolutely. I was fortunate enough to get these at DSCC. Didn't even know they did it. I walked in and it was sitting there. And
so they don't have a one bottle limit there?
No, because they only had one bottle, and then I went.
So before we go, we got to work on acronyms. So DSCC, what is that?
Defense Supply Center, Columbus.
Okay. There's a couple people that have been saying that we have to help them out with some of the acronyms that we use. If you're not familiar with the military, we do have a ton of acronyms, and if you're in the military, we can throw out these acronyms and understand exactly what.
Then you work from the government, you have the same acronyms, but they mean different things. So
yeah, but you've been working for the government for
a
4
year
months total.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Like
it is.
Yeah, I started 4 years ago. I've been deployed for 75% of it, but looking forward to my new job. So yeah, it's great.
Mac Tool's probably glad they got rid of me before this happened.
That's a good. I'm glad you brought that up. So the people that they may or may not know. I think most people do know. If you're a National Guardsman, or reservist, if you deploy, you cannot lose your job. That's the federal law.
And if
or maybe a state law, but there's a law. So yeah. I had a question about this. So obviously they can't fire you, but have you ever heard of stories like from your soldiers or other officers there, like, yeah, they didn't fire you, but you came back like 6 months later, you're at your job, and all of a sudden that this person is under the microscope. Everything they're doing is like being criticized. They're not performing, and they don't legally, they still falls under, they don't lose their job, but they're kind of forced out. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't heard any cases like that. But I have, it's one of those things, like, they know you're in the military and they can't tell you, like, if you're up for a promotion or you're interviewing for a promotion, then they're not going to come out and tell you, like, you didn't get the job because you're in the Army and we don't know when you're going to deploy. But they'll be like, oh, you weren't qualified. This guy was more qualified than you. And I feel like that could be a factor. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to speculate, but I mean, it just seems like that's got to be in the back of their head. Like, are you going to be a supervisor, or are you going to be, deployed for a year? Like, what's going on here? Because I actually had a job that I'm not going to say who, but I asked, like, hey, because I was a temp at the time, and I was like, am I going to get hired on, before I deploy? I was like, can you email HR? And the response from HR was, if he doesn't deploy, we'll hire him on full time, but if he deploys, we're not going to. And I was like, can you print that email out for me? And they did, like, clueless. And I was like, thank you. I'm just going to hold on to this. And they didn't hire me on, but they did when I came back. But I don't know. Anyway, it was that HR person was not thinking clearly when they sent that email, because that was, I mean, they had that one in writing. So, yeah. I mean, I could have taken that somewhere, but I didn't want to, because I like the people I work for. So I didn't do it. But. Yeah,
because I haven't heard a lot of stories, but it's one of those things I always think about, because especially in the last 20 years, I think, like, I don't even know when that law came about, but I don't know if they really, could see what was going to happen in the past 20 years, where you had an employee that could have been gone for 6 years, because there are people that I have friends of mine that were reservists or National Guard that deployed for a long ass time. And, and they came back, and I can't imagine being on that civilian team and being like, hey, you've been gone for 4 out of 10 years, welcome back. And they're not, to be honestly, a little bit of, I get it, like, hey, this person's done out there, served the country, but then when you come back, it's time to do your regular job. And I thought that was interesting. So I've always wondered if, it's always been in the back of my mind. I guess as a veteran, I don't think I would think the same way as some people, but I can't help it being, I've been in corporate America for a little while now, and there are people that they get upset when someone takes their full maternity leave, or go out on surgery for like, oh my gosh, sorry, I had to have my foot amputated and I was out for 5 months. But so that's interesting, and I'm glad to hear that you guys haven't seen that in your career, because your career has really spanned from when things got pretty active for
I joined in 03, so right. I mean that's
so it got pretty crazy. So Jason just posted up the Uniform Service Employment and Reemployment Right Act of 1994. So
you Sarah,
not a little. So it actually, I mean, it was, but like it did come out before. I think the times, I look at it and kind of think that they were thinking about the person that's like 2 weeks a year. Maybe they're going to go 6 months to support something in the home state, but not going and deploying to Iraq, Afghanistan, Haiti, wherever you guys have been in the past few years. It's pretty amazing. So I got in trouble a couple weeks ago because I didn't ask Jason these questions. So we're going to go back to military career.
Okay.
Your biggest success so far in your military career. It obviously wasn't getting the $8,000 bonus as being a cook. It wasn't becoming an engineer.
No. My biggest success probably being in this long, because it's not easy. I mean, it was easier when I was younger because I was single and it didn't matter. But now it's harder and harder. I've been gone. Over this last year, I went to JRTC last June, and I was gone for a whole month. I was just in Fort Hood for a whole month in January and February. And then, now I'm about to leave again. It's tough because when I literally came off my orders from the food bank, and then we were doing all this training go down to Fort Polk for JRTC. And it was like, I feel like I could never get in the swing of my job because I just kept coming and going. I mean, I was at Fort Sill for 2 months for another school. And it's just like all this after I started with DLA, I was like, and I'm in a 2-year program that I have to graduate from. And so I would say the biggest success is being able to stay in there, because there's a lot of, it's tough to to be the citizen soldiers, they call it, and have to do both civilian and the Army thing. And my biggest reason for staying in, honestly, is the healthcare and benefits when you retire. When I'm 60, you don't have to rely on Medicaid. I'm going to have the TRICARE. But so basically, I mean, I've stayed in for my future family, my future life, like for me and my wife, to make it easier on us when we're older. So, but that's my biggest accomplishment, staying in this long, because I did after my first 6-year contract, I got out for 3 months, and I was like, well, now what? So I got back in, and never thought about it again after that. After I got out, 3 months, I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. So I got back in, and here we are.
Yeah, somebody just posted they appreciate your balance, and that's I tried to get Jason to bite on this a couple weeks ago, and he didn't kind of breeze to it a little bit. He's cool, calm, and collective, and he said he didn't have a problem like changing hats and stuff. So I think he was lying to us, but no, I do appreciate you. That's one of the things I thought was interesting about the role as a reservist or National Guard person, is to be able to like do one thing that you really care about, and then to come back in the civilian world and be like, we really care about that, and to not be able to be pulled the same weight that you're doing, downrange, or whether it's at Fort Polk or it's overseas. I admire you guys to be able to like I guess, wear a different hat or just, flip that switch to go from doing this. And that is a pretty big accomplishment especially in the past the time that we're talking about, like since you've come in, that is pretty amazing.
And I don't think it'd have been as hard if I would have started at DLA 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It'd be fine. Cause 6 years ago, it was just normal. I had sometimes I was like, gone for 2-3 weeks, a month at a time, but this last 3 years has been a lot of deployments and being away. So like I've never really fully been able to learn my job. So I keep going back. Like I feel brand new every time I come back.
Right. So are you guys working? Are you back at the DLA in person, or are you guys working from home?
No, we're still working from home.
All right. Interesting. Any talk to go back in person?
Yeah, there's talk. Maybe summer. I don't know. By the time they go back, I'll probably be gone. So it doesn't really matter for me. I still work from home. Even regardless if we go back, I still work from home 4 days a week when I go back anyway. So
we talked about your biggest success. That's a pretty good success. I'd say it's like, because it's not easy. There's always reasons to quit anything in life, and I think the military, there's a lot of reasons to quit, no matter how much you love it. What you're doing, there's always a reason to quit. So now the next question is, what's your biggest failure then, do you think, in your Army career?
Oh, yikes. I know we're going on here. Biggest failure? Probably not going active duty to start. Because I tried when I initially got back from basic and AIT, I was trying to go back active duty as well. I was like, I enjoyed basic and AIT, and I was like, maybe this is what I need, like get away and go who knows where. But then again, like I said, I got that call and I was deployed, so that paperwork never got finalized. By the time I got back from Iraq, I was ready for a break. So I never went, but I kind of regret that, not going back. Or not going active duty to start, because who knows, maybe I would have stayed and I'd be retiring in a year with a pension.
But the question is, if you're talking about that though, what MOS would you have went in?
I would have switched. There's no way it would have been there's no way I would have stayed
as a cook.
No.
So what it would have been the
if I
Romeo,
if I showed up to the recruiter and I was going to active duty, I was probably going to go MP. Would have been my initial. Which, people don't like them either, so I don't really know. It still wouldn't have been a great job, but yeah.
So for all the people, some people know, my dad is a retired MP. So yes, Dad, you just heard it. People do not like MPs. We love MPs because we're your family, but we really don't like MPs. But my dad did that after he got back from Vietnam, and I promised him I wouldn't tell the whole story about that until he's here in the basement. We'll talk about that story as well. So, you talked about before. So let's talk about it again. We always talk about, do you regret, you said a couple times you regret going to the DLA? Do you regret making that switch, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think I regret it. It's, again, like my wife works there as well. So by the time everything's said and done, we're going to have 3 pensions and, the TRICARE for our healthcare when we're retired. So, we're setting ourselves up for the future. There's very few jobs anymore with a pension like that. So that was one of the whole reasons I joined, and the flexibility, like being in the military and being a DLA. It's literally, I've twice now in the last 2 years, I've had to call my boss and be like, oh yeah, today's my last day because I just got called. I'm leaving tomorrow, and I don't know how long I'm gonna be gone. And it's like, all right, see you when you get back. Like, keep me updated, whatever. Which is nice. So as far as being, dual status like that, it's very convenient working for the government and being in the Guard at the same time.
Yeah, probably easy. We were talking before the podcast about how a lot of the for some of the listeners, you don't know that a lot of the government workers are former military people. So they again, like I alluded to earlier, they kind of understand the plight or the road you're going down. So they're a lot more accepting than a lot of other places could be. I feel like there's definitely some places that I've seen that I don't know how receptive they would be to get that call and say, hey, by the way, remember, boss, I'm going to be gone for 6 months. And, good luck,
Yeah.
and I'll see you when I see you.
But like I'm on a team, with 7-8 people, and we all have the same job, so they're just gonna take on a little extra weight when I'm gone. But when I'm at Mac Tools, I'm the only one who has that job.
Right.
So when I leave them, they're like, "Well, we just lost that position, but we can't technically backfill it because he's coming to come back." So it's um, it's just easier, I think, for
All right.
being dual status like that.
So there's a few people listening, and the people that are here in the audience here. We know. I was trying to avoid this as much as I could, but you've had a rough couple months. I'd say a rough 2022. It's been a rough start for you.
Yeah.
Lost a couple soldiers that you were familiar with, committed to, or took their life this year. And then a couple days ago, you actually lost one of your really good friends, Pete, to lung cancer, which possibly could be
From the burn pits, yeah.
from a service-connected injury. So that's one of the common things that you're seeing. I guess the way to sum it up is, if you research it, a lot like what happened with 9/11. There's a lot of military veterans that were in Iraq and Afghanistan that were exposed to burn pits and things like that, that are coming down with some of those same symptoms that the firefighters and first responders in New York had. So I have to just tell you, I've checked in on you a couple times. I got to tell you, a couple days ago, I think, is when I first reached out. I was almost going to cancel this when I heard about what happened to your friend, and I just admire your courage. And I guess the question to ask is how are you doing, and how are you dealing with this? Other than drinking a shit ton of alcohol, which is a good way to way of coping, but not the preferred way of coping. To be very correct. So
yeah, this one got one word out.
I'm sorry, brother.
This one hurt a lot.
So tell us didn't mean to choke you up. So let's. I've always said the people I lost is like, let's talk about the good things. So I read some stuff on Facebook and some people talk about, like, heard he was an awesome dude.
Yeah.
Let's tell us some good stuff about him. Let's. Why was he a good dude?
He was always uplifting. Just always a good time. He was a smart ass, which I'm a smart ass, so we always clicked. We clicked from the beginning. Like one of my favorite stories, we're at his bachelor party. He went to Michigan State, so we always had the Michigan State, Ohio State. After the deployment, we'd go up there and watch the games. He'd come down here and tailgate, and so we did that for years. But at his bachelor party, we did our thing. We golfed, then did the bar hopping and had our fun times, and then the last morning we all hung over. Our last day, we sat down and had breakfast at some restaurant. And as we're walking out, one of his buddies in his wedding party went to the little machine that had the runts in it, put his quarter in, got his runts out. He turns around and Pete's walking out, and just as he walks by, I mean, so nonchalant, he just swings his arm and smacks it, and there's all you hear is runts flying all over the restaurant. And I don't think I've ever laughed that hard in my life, because just the way he did it, he was just walking by. I was like, boom, and then they were gone. And that's why it's just one of my favorite stories. He was always, even with the cancer. He actually got diagnosed when I was in Afghanistan. I was on Facebook and I saw him in the hospital, so I was messaging him asking what was going on, and he's like, "Oh, my lung collapsed. I'm not sure what's going on. I got some tests, but I'll keep you updated." And then he told me he's like got lung cancer, and I was like, he was freaking 27 years old, and we're like, what the hell? So yeah, he's been battling it for the last 9 years, but everything was good. Like, it was in remission. And then just a couple weeks ago, he got a cold, went to the hospital, got released. He was fine. Then he went back last week. They put him on a ventilator and on Sunday, and then he passed away on Tuesday. It was just like that. So it was, coming out of the blue made it that much harder.
Yeah, I really appreciate. We talked about this. I just want to talk about. I didn't ambush him with this. We talked about whether he wanted to share this, and I think number one, it takes a shit ton of courage to even come on and do this podcast a couple of days after a close friend passed away, and then obviously to have the balls to talk about it. And it's kind of one of the things we talked about. I think this is it's important. A lot of times, everybody thinks everybody in the military we don't have feelings, but I think that's the exact opposite. I think we feel a lot harder than a lot of people.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been attached a lot closer to a lot of people. Like you talked about the first few minutes about being deployed, and there's some kind of bond you form that nobody can ever take away. And I think that's one of the things. And whether it's from unfortunately what a lot of veterans are doing to themselves, and then just losing someone to cancer, it sucks. I lost my mom to cancer a few years back, and it doesn't get easy.
No.
And cancer sucks. And but I really appreciate talking about that, and having the courage to do it. So, like, what is keeping you balanced though? Because I want to go back to this because I personally, I don't know. I could say, yeah, it's not a big deal. I lost a soldier, like both the soldiers that passed away. We talked about Cole a couple weeks ago, and then we're going to talk about another Ohio National Guardsman that took his life in January. I think, I can't remember, but you knew both of them. Like how are you keeping it together? I mean, how are you doing? Are you really doing okay here? Or are you?
Yeah, I am, and I know, like, I was listening to Jason a couple weeks ago. I mean, suicide, taking my own life it's never crossed my mind. And I know, like, when I do get upset and I do, I might, like this week, I'd probably drinking too much, but it's just that thought's never, and especially now, I mean, with I couldn't do that to my kids and my wife. Like, there's no way. I want to see my daughters grow old. So like that I get my first thought when I see someone I know that took their own life, a soldier, I just I don't know, it's too hard to fathom for me, because I'm like, I couldn't do it, so I don't know, like, what has to happen to you to be able to do that. So that's the part that messes me up about suicide. I'm like really, like, it was worth taking your life. So it's hard because I don't want to judge them, because you don't know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And some people think that's the only way out, and it's tough. I mean, over my deployments, we lost 4 people in combat, and then I'm at like 7 or 8 suicides now. So I mean, we're losing more after the fact than actually overseas. So something's wrong.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we talked about a couple weeks, and we'll continue to talk about this. The one thing I want to say is that just because you and I don't see that as an option, I know that some people do see it as an option, and my words to go out to those people, and then anybody that you think might be doing this, to tell them is that there are other options. That's not the final option. That may be an option they have, but there are other options that are better. Every other option is better than that, and I think that's the thing. It is interesting to hear, and it's funny. Just following. I shouldn't have said funny, but it is interesting to see that when I was researching a couple weeks ago for Cole, your guys' battalion commander wrote something on Facebook, and they were pretty hard-held words, and I hope I'll link that in if I can into the post, but it's definitely something that I think military leaders need to be telling soldiers. I thought what he said was spot on, and I hope that a lot of military leaders are doing that. I hope that we continue to do what we're doing. I think I've had you guys on because I feel like you guys are the same type of people that to tell those folks that think this is the option. It's not an option. It's really it really hurts a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It may get rid of the short term for you, but it just has everlasting effects that just weigh on people. That they should remember. So as always, if you have someone that if you're thinking this way, that you're listening, or you have someone that you think might be hurting, they can always call the Veterans Crisis Hotline, which is at 1-800-273-8255, and press 1. or you can text 838-255. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm trying to see if you're ready for another pour over there. But you're
I think I heavy poured that one. You're talking to me too much.
Yeah. I'll let you drink.
No, you're good.
We'll don't pound it though. We can get you another glass, but we'll wait for the next whiskey portion of it when we get a chance. But so we got kind of dark here, and again, I from the bottom of my heart, Andrew, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for allowing me to bring it up. It's important. Like I said, and I hope it makes you feel a bit better to know that you can always talk to folks like us, other people, your family, these rough times, and I really feel for you. And I hope 2022 turns itself around for you.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I do. Hopefully, my wife's watching. I know she will at some point if she's not doing it live. But I have to apologize for this week because I just haven't known how to handle it. This is the closest friend I've ever lost, so it was worse than losing a family member.
Yeah, and I probably I don't know if your wife is listening. She is in the group now, but I guarantee you when you get home, she's going to tell you, or if she listens to this, that I don't think you need to apologize to anybody, man. That's the first thing to remember. As long as you get through it at the end, man, that's what matters. And people have different ways of coping. People run 10 miles. They do Ironmans. They lift weights. I used to do that, but now I just drink whiskey. But I mean, people may judge you, but I guess it's how you do that. I mean, honestly, I don't think you owe anybody an apology. So take that burden off yourself. And I'm sure your wife's going to give you a big hug, and she's going to.
No, she has, and
she's
been great. So. She's been great this week. It's just I feel bad because I feel like I'm, maybe not handling it the right way, but again, I just doing it my way at this point.
Yeah, but I think that's. I mean, it's funny that you're right the right way. Like, what the fuck is the right way? That's. I mean, that's. And again,
this is the right way. This is your way
for you.
Yeah, last night I was with a couple buddies that, my friend Corey. He was the best man at my wedding, and we were roommates in Afghanistan. He lost his best friend when he was in the Marine Corps. He lost his best friend to melanoma. So it's like the same exact freaking thing. And then, so being out with him last night, another buddy who lost his best friend when we were in Afghanistan. So it helps, being around. Literally, he had the same exact situation. Like lost one of his, his best friend to cancer after their service, and it's just. He said it's 12 years later, and he's still. Just a song comes on the radio, and he has to stop because it was his buddy's song, So.
Well, I think you just hit on another good point. You still are in the National Guard, so you do still have people, a network of people that are still in the military that share your experience. There's a lot of people. If I go to my workplace. It's few and far between who have experienced what I have. So I think that's another thing to remember. Again, I'm not a professional, but I just think that with the military, there's a strong bond that we have, and then all of a sudden, that bond it's still there. But now I don't have that person I can talk to. I don't have that person that understands something that really affects you or upsets you. So I continue to talk to the people, I'm talking to you, but also the people that are listening, and then people that have family members. It is important that there are people out there that want to listen. There's organizations, again, that can help. There's other veterans that always want to hear about it. And I do want to hit on again and say, there is no fucking right way, to be frank, about how you deal with this stuff. And that doesn't matter if it's the things we saw, overseas, if we lost a friend, if it's how other people have tragedies that don't have anything to do with the military, but it's really shitty for someone to tell someone how they deal with stuff. It just matters that you get through it, and that you don't get arrested and lose your job. That's probably my criteria, I guess. But
Probably
yeah,
good.
Yeah, and hope when you get home, your wife gives you a big hug and tells you that it's okay, man. Like you're gonna get through this. Pete would want you to have fun. I'm sure we'll have some more drinks for him once this is over. But so now to get out of the dark space.
Yeah, let's do that.
We need to. Are you ready for another pour yet, or are you still waiting? I'm gonna move on to another pour. We'll go to Old Forester. You brought a Old Forester barrel strength rye.
Yes, actually, Jason and some guys in the group, Kevin, Max Arnold, I don't know, a few guys chipped in and got this for me for my promotion. So
cool.
Very nice of them, and it's a good pour.
So to correct somebody earlier, it wasn't Jack Daniels that sponsors. It's actually Brown-Forman that sponsor this. Both of these are Brown-Forman products. So Old Forester, one of the original Brown-Forman corporations, actually founded by George Gavin Brown, who is in 1870, who's actually the founder of Brown-Forman. Interesting. So interesting facts about Old Forester. They were one of 6 distilleries that had a legal license to distill medicinal whiskey during Prohibition. Good fact here. So Old Forester, it is owned by Brown-Forman. So they do distill in a couple different places. They distill in Louisville on Whiskey Row, and they also are down in Shively, Kentucky as well. Old Forester, the rye you brought out, is actually interesting story about that as I was researching it. A couple of years early in 2019, Old Forester came out with their 100 proof rye, which took the market by storm. That mash bill, which is a little bit different than normal Kentucky mash bills, it actually has 65% rye, 20% malted barley, and then only 50% corn. Very different than what the traditional mash bills of Kentucky bourbon are, or Kentucky rye, and also even Indiana rye as well. And it was actually the first time in over 150 years that they changed the recipe. So these are the next step of them. These came out, and I think was it 2021. Very limited. I think they only released like 75 barrels. Right now, they say that these are aging more. Unlike a lot of single barrels programs, this was not one of the. That's not true, not like that. But initially, it has started off that the single barrel ryes are not available for private single barrel picks, which would be at a liquor store, a bar across the United States. So right now, all these are being released from the distiller themselves. And to quote Jackie, the master taster at Old Forester, she said the Old Forester barrel strength rye delivers the same balanced and unique flavor profile of our 100 proof expression, only amplified, unfiltered, and in raw form. So if you haven't had this and you can get your hands on it, it's pretty amazing. So thanks again, and congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you. If you want a bottle, just get promoted, and Jason will buy you one.
Yeah, somebody will buy it for you if they can get a hold of it.
I'll put that out there. Jason will buy it for you.
We'll add him on. We'll add his how to get a hold of him later on in one of the chat before I go to bed. So we're talking about hobbies now. We're getting close to an hour here. I think we can still keep talking, but the next thing is I've asked all you guys to tell me like your hobbies and stuff. So you're a big golfer.
Yeah.
Good golfer or just a golfer?
I mean, I'm good compared to definitely good compared to Jason. I'm good. I don't know. I'm like mid 80s. Rough handicap 13.
That's not bad. Okay, that's pretty decent. That's pretty decent.
I play in a golf league on Mondays. This year I can't do it because of the deployment, but I'll still sub in before I leave.
Get a few in there. So what kind of clubs you swinging?
Titleist T200s. So yeah, I just got them at the end of last year. So I'm working my way up to blades. So they're like the almost blades.
That's a good thing about deploying all the extra cash. You can buy bourbon, buy golf clubs.
Yep. Kirsten, I'm gonna be buying bourbon. You're gonna have to take some deliveries while I'm gone.
That'll be all right. So I had some golf questions I thought were important. So you answered the handicap rough 13. So next question. If you could play with a round of golf with any professional golfer, who would it be and why?
Wow. There's a lot to choose from.
That's probably the toughest question I asked you.
It's like you got Jack, who's from Columbus, so you're like, is it Jack? But then you got Arnold Palmer, who's, I don't know.
You're going old. I like how you're going old school. I thought you were going to be more like
Tiger,
Rory,
I mean,
something like that. Although Tiger would be pretty.
if I was, in
well,
my
maybe let me ask the question: like, play around the golf, and then every extracurricular activity after.
yeah, that's what I say. Is like if I'm in my
Play around
20s
golf.
and I'm single, I'm playing with Tiger, and we're gonna go to Denny's. But
What about John Daly?
oh man, John
Come on,
Daly,
play about
that
John
would be
Daly.
a good one. Yeah, John.
But are you talking old school? Are you talking Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus now, or like when they were like younger? Like, what's your criteria for that question? I mean,
One that could still swing a club, halfway decent. So maybe like them in the 80s. He still won one in the 80s, so or Jack did, but Arnold's a little older. But
Yeah.
John Daly, you
somebody
threw
just
that
put
one out there. I'm like, yeah, John
somebody just
Daly
put
is a
John
good
Daly
one.
because why not? That would be. I was making
I mean,
funny, but my initial answer would be like, of course, Tiger Woods. He's one of the best ever played. But then I'm like, holy Christ, I would play with John Daly, like current John Daly now, because it has to be a party. I mean,
just last year he was playing with some random people and he was in bare feet and had a hole in one. He's just out there barefoot, just standing. I mean, it's John Daly. That's what he does. He doesn't give a shit. That's why.
That's why I'm surprised you were like, I'm gonna go with the 80-year-old guy. After the second hole, you totally probably offend him. It kind of, I don't know though. You wonder if they had to be hit pretty hardcore back then too. But that's an interesting.
I mean, I just don't know. I mean, Jack and Arnie. I mean, that's
so. What's your final answer? Like we gave you a lot of options. Final answer. Who would you? If you had one chance to play a round of golf, who was it with?
I'll probably say Jack, just because he's a Columbus guy, and maybe if I played with him once and he liked me, then I could play Muirfield all the time. And I mean, he would like me. I'm very charming.
Like a fungus that grows on. There is something that I have to reiterate here. So I'm not from Ohio originally. Moved here about 8 years ago.
From New York. That's where real people are
from.
You
are not from Ohio.
No.
And all of a sudden I'm talking about you're talking about Ohio State. You're talking about Jack is an Ohioan. Like where do you so do you consider yourself an Ohioan?
This is the longest place I've ever lived. I'm 37.
Had to think about that.
I did.
Hey everybody, if you watch the video, you're supposed to have his job as a firefighter radar operator. You're supposed to be really good at math, and he knows how long that took him to figure out his age. I can't even imagine if he's plugging some stuff in for some counterfeit.
I'm an E7 now. I don't have to do any of that plugging. I just I make everyone else do it. So no. What was the question?
Well, are you in Ohio? And where's your state flag? What are you flying in the back? What are you flying? I mean, obviously, you're an Ohio State fan.
I am an Ohio State fan, but yeah, it's crazy because like I'm a New York Giants fan because I'm from New York.
It's the greatest football team ever.
Yeah, I'm a New York Giants fan. My dad.
Hold on, baseball. What's your team in baseball?
Well, this one.
Do not say the Guardians.
No. This one's different because
don't say the Mets either.
My dad went to college with Sid Bream. Do you know that name? You're old. You should know who Sid Bream is.
I do.
So him and Sid were good friends in college, and they still hunt together and all that. So I'm an Atlanta Braves fan.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember seeing that. That's true.
So so baseball, I'm a Braves, and then so I'm all over. So people are like, why? How are you all these? I'm like, look, I got a reason for all of them. You don't need to.
Yeah.
Don't judge me.
Yeah.
Don't judge me.
Like fuck off. I'm gonna be.
The main thing is I'm an Ohio State fan, so you should be. I mean, anyone in Ohio shouldn't.
No, that's not. That is for all you people that live.
So who's your college team? Can I ask that?
I grew up in New York. Actually, the longest.
You say place, Syracuse. I don't even know if are they a real sports college?
Hold on. The longest place that I ever lived. I did the math a lot quicker than it was actually Texas. So I lived in Texas for 2 different stints, and I could claim myself as being a Texan, which is way better than being from Ohio. I mean, like Texans kick ass. I mean, everything's better in Texas. Everything's bigger.
Do you guys see any steers?
But for college sports, I grew up in. So I'm diehard professional sports. So of all the times that I moved around everywhere, that's one of the things like college sports. It just has been a thing. Like I'm a diehard Giants fan, Rangers fan.
Oh heck yeah!
Jay and I'm a Yankees fan. Anything other than that, I don't like you if you're a Red Sox fan or a Patriot.
Thank God I'm not.
I really hate you, but that's right. But it's interesting. Like for college, and also just the asset. Like I don't follow a lot of college sports. I actually, since I moved here 8 years ago, I will tell you that I am absolutely root against whoever Ohio State's playing. I hate to say that. It finally happened where Michigan, finally beat you for the first time I moved here, and I'm glad about that.
But I've been here since 03. I think it's only like the second time they beat us. So it's probably because I moved to Ohio in 03. That's probably why we went on this run.
And that is a typical Ohio State fan that thinks just because they moved here is the reason. Well, I should say it was better than I moved here that I gave you guys. I could say that too. Right?
When did you move here?
I lived in 2014.
Was that the Luke Fickle year or no?
When you win the national, when you win the national championship, 15 or something? What was it?
14 sounds
so
right.
Look at that. So I'm the reason why you guys won.
We won in 02. I mean, I moved there right after. I mean, I was in California for the 02 one, but then I got to move to a national championship state, so not bad.
We'll see how big of a Braves fan you are after all the talent you guys traded away here or let go away. So
yeah, that one hurt. I liked Freeman. That was tough to get rid of him.
I think it's funny. Like baseball is my number one sport, so it's always interesting to watch the offseason. And after the 99-day lockout for millionaires and billionaires,
you probably remember the 94 one like yesterday.
Wow, that's like your third age joke. I like it.
Yeah,
I'm impressed. I'm really impressed.
I told you I'm very witty.
Actually, 94. I was a senior in college,
so you do remember the lockout. That one took like half the season, didn't it?
I'm supposed to be the one giving you shit, not about my age. That's fine. No, I did remember that, but I'm glad this one didn't last that long. So I think we've covered all my predetermined questions, which went pretty easy. And I'm joking around with that. We're getting close to the time limit we're about a little bit over an hour now, and I'm just trying to keep the podcast in a reasonable amount of time and not bore too many people. But I want to thank you for coming down to the basement. Thank you for sharing a couple pretty amazing bottles. And most importantly, to have the courage to come here a couple of days after what you shared earlier, and then also to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, if this was 2 days ago, I wouldn't be able to do it. I was a wreck. So
yeah, I think anybody would have been, and I do really, from the bottom of my heart, I do appreciate you doing that. Like I said, a couple of days ago, I was ready to call this off and reschedule. So I really appreciate that. And one of the things, this is the third episode, but one of the things we do talk about and kind of like want to honor some of the fellow veterans that we talked about earlier that felt like they needed to get out of this life. So the service member we're going to talk about today is actually Specialist Tyler Hankins, who was also in the Ohio National Guard. You knew him. 32 years old from Richmond, Indiana. Tyler passed away Monday, January 31st of this year in his home. He was born June 9th in 1989 in Findlay, Ohio. He graduated from Bath High School in Lima and earned his associate's degree through the computer career. Tyler served for 6 years in the Ohio National Guard from 2008 to 2014, where and during that time he actually deployed to Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. In his civilian life, he was a coach manager at Walmart in Cincinnati. Tyler was a diehard Ohio State fan.
Diehard, very.
It sounds like he has a reason because he actually was from Ohio.
And a Colts fan, unfortunately. He's a poor guy, but
I mean,
well, he had Peyton, so.
Which is true. And then from everything I read about him, he was a huge family guy. His family loved him a lot. He was actually coaching his son Marcus's football and baseball teams. And he's actually survived by his wife of 5 years, Angela, his son Marcus, his parents, siblings, and a lot of family, and also fellow Ohio National Guardsmen that are missing him.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to bring up another shitty 3 months. I mean, I feel like I'm just like.
I mean, this one hurt too. I mean, he was such a good guy. I mean, we gave him a lot of shit because he was one of those guys that we like to pick on, and he gave it right back. He was, it's just the Army way. But this literally happened the day after Sergeant Lytle, so it was like back-to-back days, a kick in the gut. But I mean, out of anyone I mean, I would have never expected him to do this. So it was. I think that's why this one took us all by. We're all like, "What the hell?" Like, I mean, that one was a surprise. I mean, they're all surprises, but that one, for me, that it was crazy. Like I don't know.
No, I agree. I mean, I shared with one of my classmates in episode 1 that took his life, and I think it was a surprise to everyone. I mean, we all have our issues or demons, whatever you want to call it. It is always surprising, and what's even more surprising is I think some of the strongest mentally, physically, emotionally people in the world, U.S. military service member, are killing ourselves at an alarming rate, approximately 22 a day, and that's something we have to stop. And it's one of the number one reasons why I decided to do this is to, if it helps one person, I hope it does. So again, if you think this is the only option, it's not. Talk to somebody, and again, if you really need to talk to a professional, and you don't have that support group, you can always call the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or you can text 838-255. Again, it isn't the only option. Every other option besides this is better, and I hope people see that. And again, I'm heartbroken for you and for all of us that have to deal with this. It fucking sucks.
I was talking to my buddies last night, and it was just like, if we never joined the military, like there's how much grief I would be missing right now that I wouldn't have to deal with. It's just crazy that it's so much higher with the military, and it sucks. Like, man, if I never joined the military, there's 15 people I wouldn't even be crying about, and it sucks. It does.
No, I guess Jason brought it up, and I've always felt like he brought a quote a couple weeks ago, and I can't remember, but I always, the way I look at it is the worst thing I've ever seen or dealt with. It's 99.9% never going to happen again unless things go really fucking bad. And so that's kind of how I look at it. And it does upset me that, we are asked to do so many things, and we do so many things. We do so many things for others. And ultimately, we come back and we're just losing ourselves. It just blows my mind. And somebody just made a comment that, never be afraid to tell a brother that you love them. It's as important. I mean, it's right now in the basement, there's 3 people in the military, and the 2 that weren't.
Jason texted me last night that he loved me. Yeah. So I mean,
it's hard. I'm not saying that you have to, like, let me rephrase that. You don't have to be in the military to understand what we're going through. It just sometimes has to be someone that can listen and not judge, or just be that sounding board that we need, and to be able to be that person that says, "Hey man," or "Hey woman, this isn't a good thing. I love you. I don't care what you did. It's all right that you like when you get home. I think your wife is going to tell you that it's all right that you didn't help the girls get ready this morning. It's all right that you maybe had too much to drink, and I think a lot of the key is to listen to us, and again, go back to what you said before. Don't try to tell us our way of fucking dealing with it.
Yeah,
we're gonna deal with it however we can, and unfortunately,
and I'm one of the fortunate ones, to have a wife that served. So I mean, she's seen it too. She knows. So I do think that helps. Because they know, you gotta do what you gotta do. She asked me the first when the night it happened. On Tuesday she asked me, like, "What do you need me to do?" And I was like, "I need to be alone right now." Yeah. And that was, and she hugged me for a long time because it was a shock, and then after that, she's like, "What do you need me to do?" And I was like, I just need to be alone." And she gave me my wishes. I mean, she understands. So I'm very fortunate to be married to the woman I'm married to.
Yeah, and I think that does help. I mean, there's a couple things you talked about that deal with loss, and then also your upcoming deployment. But again, my wife, her dad was in the Navy, so my mother-in-law's listening, my father-in-law. But my wife didn't have any of that experience and things like that. My kids definitely were younger during my Army times, and it's funny you say that is one of the things when I'm hurting. I come down here and that's, I think, what everybody knows is just to kind of leave me alone and let me do my thing and let me get through it. I always get through it. And if I need help, I'll let you know. But that's how we deal with it. Again, one more time, if you need help or somebody needs help, please have them call the Veterans Crisis Hotline, 1-800-273-8255 and press 1 or text 838-255. So we're going to call it a night on the podcast tonight. We're about an hour and 15 minutes into it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for episode 3. Thanks to you, Andrew, for coming in for being a guest and having the courage to talk about some things a lot of people don't. Tune in. A couple more weeks, we're going to have another cool guest. We're going to try to change it up and keep this going for every 2 weeks. And thank you for everybody tuning in. Everybody have a great night and take care.